Welcome to Aging Insight with your host, John Ross and Lisa Schollmeyer. This program is made possible by
Welcome to another edition of Aging Insight. I'm your host, John Ross, here in the studio today to talk to you about issues that relate to people, particularly as they get older, but a lot of the times these issues can affect anybody. I bet whether I'm talking to somebody who's 18 or 80, if I ask them if they want to go to a nursing home, the answer would be no. If I ask them if they want to become a burden on other people, they would say no. And if I ask them if they wanted to lose all of their life savings, they would say no. And it doesn't really matter. We think about, for example, my profession is an elder law attorney. And we think of, well, okay, if you're an elder law attorney, you must have to be elder to need that sort of service. But really, a lot of these things apply to everybody. When you're dealing with health issues, housing issues, financial issues, and legal issues, those can really apply to just about anybody. And one of the things that I have seen many times in my practice is that, maybe a person's health is fine, maybe their housing arrangements are fine, maybe they've even got all of their estate planning in place. Everything is in pretty good order, but the one thing they haven't protected themselves against is their own mistake. They get caught up in something, and these are your scams. And your scams can come in lots of different forms. In fact, we're going to talk about several of those today because we have brought into the studio Patricia Cunningham with Red River Federal Credit Union. Welcome.
Thank you.
And she's going to help us talk about senior scams. And I kind of brought one in today because, imagine, for example, that you got a check in the mail. Now, I'm looking at this thing, and it says it's got a bank's name on it, it's got a routing number, it's got an ID number, and it's made payable to one of my clients, and she brought it into me, and it came with this nice little letter here, and this letter says attached to this letter is a check, and it says you didn't realize this, but you have won. Let's see, $350,000. So she won $350,000 according to this letter. And to make sure, and they want to say in there, this is not a scam. So this says right here in the letter, it's not a scam. And the way they're going to show her that it's not a scam, there are some taxes that are due on this money. And those taxes are about $4,350. But to prove to her that they're not a scam, they have enclosed a check, and that way she can deposit this check and pay those taxes. Mm-hmm. Now, what would have happened if she would have gone down, deposited this check, which looks like a valid check? It's got a routing number and it's got a local bank and everything on it. So she goes down, she deposits this check, and then immediately sends off a check of her own to pay these taxes.
Okay, so if she were to come to the credit union, to Red River Credit Union, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the check. And so I haven't seen the check, and I'm not a teller, but I can tell you what we're going to do is we're going to look at the check, and we're going to check several different things. One of the things that we always check is, are your fonts the same on that check? Because a lot of times your fonts may be different. Your typing on that may be completely different. You check to see maybe their names are misspelled. She may not check that because she's just excited that she won this money.
That's right.
She may not realize that. One number in her house address may be different. Something may not look right with that check. We also can kind of see what her transaction history might be. She's never had a check with that dollar amount, or we've never received a check from that company before. There's things that we have in place where we might say, okay, Miss Smith, whatever this member's name is, and say, how did you come by this check? How did you get this check? And she'll say, oh, I won XYZ lottery, or I got a letter, and this letter told me that I won, $300,000, and I had to pay these taxes. So this is so I can pay the taxes. Well, right there, we're going to ask to see the letter. And so when we ask to see the letter, usually they're going to show us the letter. We can call and verify the check, and we're going to find out that check is a counterfeit check. So one, we're going to stop her. We're going to let her know right then that that's a scam.
Right.
Even though that letter's going to say it's not a scam, we're going to let her know it's a scam. But now, if for some reason it slipped through, she deposited that money, and she wrote that check and sent that check off, she's going to not have that $4,000 because it's going to come back.
That's right.
And she is liable for the $4,000 check that she wrote.
That's right, and that's the scam.
Yes.
That's the scam. You deposit the check, which takes a couple of days before it comes up as a bad check.
Correct.
In the meantime, the check that you have written, it goes through just fine.
It's going to clear.
And then, and if you didn't get burned that time, when you call because there's a phone number on here for you to call if you have any problems. And if you were to call that number and say, hey, your check bounced, they would be very apologetic.
Oh, yeah.
They say, oh, I'm so sorry. That was just an error on our part. Why don't, we'll issue you another check. Or
wire the money to you. What is your account number? What's the routing number to your financial institution?
Yep, and this may when we talk about it in this context, I think a lot of people, they sit at home and they say, oh well, that sort of thing could never happen to me. But I just we just finished handling a case where one of our clients, she lost almost $200,000 on this very scam. She thought she had won the lottery. They called her on the phone, they congratulated her, they sent her flowers at her house with a little note that said how excited they were that she had won. And then the next thing was, you need to send us $25,000 for the taxes, and she sent that. And then there was a bank processing fee for another $10,000, and she sent that, and one thing after another. And so that's one of many different types of scams that are out there. And these things, if you can spot them, you can stop them. But the spotting them is the hard part, because I tell you, some of these things are pretty creative. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, Tricia is going to talk to us about several of these different types of scams so that maybe you can spot them before the time comes. So stick around, we'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Larry Sims. It's been my privilege for the past several years to be a volunteer board member of Hospice of Texarkana, and there I'm able to represent community members like you. We continually customize our end-of-life care to better meet the needs of our community. As an example, our medical director and nurse practitioner still make visits to homes and facilities. Call today to learn more about the help we can give your family. Hospice of Texarkana, the nonprofit hospice established in 1985 for the community, by the community.
I'm so glad we found a Wadley Senior Clinic. Their team specializes in caring for older adults, and their doctors listen and work with me to keep me healthy and independent. With monthly educational programs, x-ray and lab, and state-of-the-art exam rooms, I get expert care and understanding about what I'm going through. Best yet, they're easy to get to right off the interstate at Jefferson. See what Wadley Senior Clinic could do for you. Wadley Senior Clinic, where healthy relationships begin.
Welcome back to Aging Insight, everybody. I'm John Ross, here today with Patricia Cunningham from Red River Federal Credit Union, and we're talking about senior scams or just scams really in general, because you don't necessarily have to be senior to fall victim to one of these. But that being said, seniors are a prime target for these, because unfortunately there's a period of time in many people's lives. We refer to this in our practice, we refer to this period of time as frail, vulnerable, but not yet incompetent. So, for example, it's not uncommon for us to have somebody who can They drive, they manage their finances, they go to their doctor, they take all of their medicines. By all outward appearances, they are perfectly well-functioning adults, and yet their frailty has left them vulnerable to sneaky people.
Oh yeah.
So we talked about the fake lottery here with the check and how good that actually looks, but that's certainly just one. Give us some examples.
Well, one example would be, I was telling John about my grandmother was a victim of a pigeon drop. It doesn't happen around here very often, and it's been several years ago, but a woman approached her at Super One parking lot. Typically, when you are in what you were describing with the older population, they're very routine oriented. She had the exact same routine every week. I could tell you every day what she did every single day. She went to the grocery store every Thursday. That was her thing. She went to Super One every single Thursday morning. But she always went on Thursday because on Wednesdays, when she got her hair done, when she got her nails done.
Right.
And so when she would go on Thursday morning, she would go to the store and then she would immediately go home. A woman approached her in the parking lot. All this woman had to do was talk about how pretty her nails were, how pretty her hair was. She looked so cute, and that's all you had to do. She would fall for anything just about after you do that. And this woman had found a bag of money. Look at this bag of money, tons of money in there. Knowing that we know now there's probably just a few $100 bills with a bunch of tissue paper underneath there.
Sure.
Basically in the end, it was the police department says I can keep the money if I can turn over $5,000. I get to keep all this money if I can give them $5,000. So after several hours, she basically goes to the credit union, Red River Credit Union, and this was way before I came to work here, and she comes inside to the credit union, withdraws $5,000 cash, takes that money, meets this woman at Burger King and hands this money over to her. This woman has her address, her name. Because of the way, a lot of the older people are, and she definitely was this way, she would tell them anything they wanted to know. That she had two daughters that lived in Texarkana. One daughter had a daughter that was going to school at College Station. She had her other daughter had a daughter that went to school at A&M in Texarkana. She lives in Tyler now, which that was me at the time. And then the daughter also had a son that lived in Texarkana, worked at Domtar, my brother. She would tell you everything.
Right.
She would tell you everything about the fact that she was a widow, that her husband had died. She would tell you everything about her life in a matter of minutes. And so this woman knew everything about her, knew her address, phone number, her name, everything, and got $5,000.
Right. So if somebody's and I know this sounds cliche, but if it sounds too good to be true,
it is. It is.
It is.
It is. And we see this every single day at the credit union. Somebody's selling something on Craigslist. Somebody's found, they're going to buy something off eBay or buy something off of the internet, and they get this check in the mail, and the check is for more than what they're paying for this item. So I'm going to sell you something. You're going to send me a check for an extra $1,000 over. That doesn't sound right. Why are you going to pay me an extra $1,000? Oh, it was a mistake. Just wire me the money.
Yeah.
That happens every single day. We see that every day.
Yeah. So they overpay and then ask you to turn around and give them $1,000 back.
And 9 times out of 10, it's not send me a check. It's wire the money. You need to send me the money Western Union or send me the money through a wire transfer. That's usually how they want that money.
Yeah, and these sort of things, they're out there and they're rampant.
Yeah. Yes.
I've heard there's quite a bit going on now with income tax.
Yes. There's plenty coming with income tax season hitting. Yeah,
people are actually calling people at home, and they will represent themselves as IRS agents. And say, this is Mr. Smith. I'm with the Internal Revenue Service. We have received your tax return. However, you omitted a little bit of income, and so there's $400 due, and so you need to get to the bank right now and wire $400 directly to us. If you don't do it within 24 hours, we're going to come and seize your property.
Right.
That's not how the IRS works.
No,
not by any stretch. The IRS, if you owe taxes, they will come and collect, but it's a slow process.
Exactly.
And there's lots of paperwork involved. So yeah, there's lots of these different types of things out there. So I guess the bank then does some things that y'all are on top of.
Yes, we are going to do everything we can to protect our members. Now, had my grandmother come in today and went to withdraw $5,000, they're going to be hold up. They're going to see that she never withdraws more than $200 because that's all she ever needed in a week's time was $200 to get her hair done, her nails done, and buy her $50 worth of groceries because that's all she ever bought. So we're going to look at your transaction history, and we know our members. I mean, how many times do you come into the credit union and you'll probably hear somebody say, hey, Miss Smith, hey, Miss So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. We know you. We know our members. And that is one of the things about us is we get to know our members. And so we're going to kind of get to know you and know that this is not a normal transaction for you. And so if she were to come in now, that would be a huge red flag. And so we would ask her, ma'am, you never get $5,000 in cash. Are you sure? And she would, because of who she was and her personality, well, you're not going to believe this. This woman came up to me at the parking lot, and she had all this money, and that's what she would do. And that was just her, you know.
Or you would get one of these situations, and this is one that I've heard several times, is they get a phone call at home.
Oh, yes.
And the person says, they say, hello, do you know who this is?
Oh, yes. She would have been a perfect target for this one because she was very hard of hearing.
Right, and so they call in, they say, well, hey, do you know who this is? And grandma or whoever, she doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so she says, well, Timmy, is that you? And they say, yeah, this is Timmy.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you probably don't remember, but I was going down to Austin, and I got down here and I hit a pothole and it blew my tire, and I'm stranded, and I need $1,000 to go get the alignment and everything taken care of. Would you run down to Western Union and wire me $1,000?
This happened to it's actually to my first cousin's grandmother. And the funny thing on hers was she just happened to answer the phone, and it was a boy pretending to be her only grandson, and he was stopped by the police, and he had drugs in his car. Problem was, her grandson is a police officer, and she knew there was no way he would have drugs in his car. So yes, it happens all the time. Yeah. All the time.
And so you can't even really trust who's answering the phone. And I used to think that maybe with cell phones it would be better, but I was sitting eating lunch the other day at a restaurant. My cell phone rang. It was a foreign number, which being in this business, that immediately shot up my red flag. But I look at it and I thought, well, I'm going to answer this anyway. So I answered it, and the guy said, "Is this John?" And I said, "Yep, this is John." And he said, "Well, have you ever heard of the Publishers Clearinghouse?" And I said, "I sure have." And he said, "Well, I'm here to tell you, you have been selected by the Publishers Clearinghouse." And I said, "Well, this is fantastic. I am so excited about this." I said, "Would you mind maybe sending me something at work? I'm at the FBI's fraud investigation office. That's where I work. Would you send me something?" They hung up on me.
I bet they did.
They hung up. And the funny thing is that may sound a little weird, but it's okay. These people are trying to scam you.
Well, of course. Yeah.
And it's okay to be rude. It's okay to hang up on them. Nancy Reagan had a whole program which was just say no, but it wasn't talking about drugs.
Right.
It's talking about these callers. It's okay. Even though you were brought up to be polite and to be friendly, sometimes it's okay to just say no. All right, well, stick around. We're going to take one more break, and we're going to kind of wrap up talking about all of these different scams. So stick around. We'll be right back.
The Wadley Senior Clinic has been such a blessing for our family. Because they specialize in geriatric care, they take the time to really focus on Dad's needs. Their exam rooms are specially designed for seniors, and they offer lab and x-ray on site. With monthly educational programs on health and wellness of the mind and body, our healthcare questions get answered. Best of all, they accept Dad's Medicare benefits. See what the Wadley Senior Clinic can do for you. Wadley Senior Clinic, where healthy relationships begin.
Hi there, I'm Larry Sims. It's been my privilege for the past several years to be a volunteer board member of Hospice of Texarkana. And there I'm able to represent community members like you. We continually customize our end-of-life care to better meet the needs of our community. As an example, our medical director and nurse practitioner still make visits to homes and facilities. Call today to learn more about the help we can give your family. Hospice of Texarkana, the nonprofit hospice established in 1985 for the community, by the community.
Welcome back to Aging Insight, and today we're talking about scams, and while this program is basically about older folks, scams really can hit anybody. Anybody can get duped. P.T. Barnum said a sucker's born every minute, and he didn't say an old sucker. It really could happen to anybody. And you want to know about these scams so that you know when they're happening to you, when somebody calls. Like I gave the example, when I see a phone call from Jamaica, I don't know anybody in Jamaica.
Right.
And so I've got to wonder why somebody from Jamaica is calling me. Some rules of thumb, don't give information out over the phone.
Right. And one thing people don't always realize is that even though somebody calls you and it says it's from Red River Credit Union, your caller ID may say Red River Credit Union, and somebody's going to say, well, we just need to verify your PIN number. There's companies where you can pay for that caller ID to show Red River Credit Union. If Red River Credit Union or any financial institution calls you and asks for your PIN number, it's not their financial institution.
That's right.
No financial institution will ever ask you for a PIN number, for your account number, for anything like that, because we already have that. We're not going to ask you for that.
Right, and that's not something that they're going to need to verify who you are. If they're calling you, like you said, they already have that information. And it's always okay to just say, look, I tell you what, I prefer to do my business in person.
Correct.
And I'll just carry myself right straight down to the credit union.
Right, and so people use those fabulous ways that they can pay for their caller ID names to be changed. I mean, I could change mine to say John Ross tomorrow if I wanted to. So, I mean, you just don't ever know if it's a legitimate call or not. So, if a bank or financial institution calls you, you're better off saying, you know what, I'll come down there.
Yeah,
That's much better.
And the same thing goes with email.
Yes.
I think I get somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 emails an hour.
Yes.
And many of those, I don't know how over the years I have landed on every scam website possible, but I'm always being informed that I'm the beneficiary of somebody's will, that there's some sort of contract or something.
Of course.
And they even specifically target lawyers with these sort of things. So almost every day I get emails that say I need some help with a breach of contract. Somebody has defrauded me, and it's been they owe me $1 million, and they've already agreed to settle. I just need somebody to draw up the contract. And it's all scams.
Right.
But sometimes, especially the ones that come, they look like they're coming from the financial institution.
Right.
And again, they're not. Y'all aren't going to send out emails asking for somebody to give them your bank account number.
Correct. And one thing about Red River Credit Union is we don't email our members, ever. We won't email you. We won't text you.
There you go.
It doesn't happen. So one thing about us is we will never email our members, and we don't text our members. That is just one thing about us. We do not do that. Now, if you have online banking, you might get an email that says your online statement is available, but you have to log into your own personal online banking to get to that statement.
Right.
So, yeah, we don't email our members ever.
But there's certainly lots of that sort of thing.
There's tons of that coming in.
And this kind of brings up a couple of things, because like I said, you can have all of your health in order, you can have all of your housing in order, you can have all of your finance in order, you can have all of your estate planning in order, and yet during this period of time where you are frail and vulnerable, but not necessarily incompetent, you're still able to do your stuff, you're just weak and vulnerable. it's possible that all of us will travel through that period of time. And so don't, even though right now you might be able to fend off something like
Right.
that, it's very possible that you will get to a stage in life where you can't, that you just don't have the cognitive function left. You're still able to go out and conduct business and go
Right,
grocery
right.
shopping and do all of these things, but you're not cognitive enough to spot the scam.
Right.
Because sometimes that's kind of like a chess game.
It
gotta
is.
you gotta figure out where those pieces on
Exactly.
are and figure out how to work around it. So keeping that in mind, you know, it's not a bad idea to, as you get older, to make sure that you've got resources around you that can help out. And that may be making sure you've got family members in place that are actively looking at, you know, for example, you mentioned online banking. I know lots of families that will have a child who has access to that online account, so they can just
Just watch
occasionally
it.
take a look and make sure the transactions are normal. Dealing with an institution where they
Right.
actually know who you are, and
Right.
you're not just some internet nobody
Right.
out of New York City.
Well, and even if you're not with Red River, that's fine. Have one specific location that you go to and try to stick with that one location, because you'll build a relationship with the people that are in that one branch.
Yeah, I mean, every time I go and make a deposit, they say, "Hey, John, how are you?"
Right.
And that sort of personal relationship. If somebody showed up with a check for John Ross,
Right.
I think those tellers would know it,
Yes,
and they would
they
look at it and they would go,
probably would.
"Wait a second, you're not John."
Yeah.
Although my name is John Ross. Every other male on the planet is named John Ross, so it'd be a little easier for me.
Well.
But anyway, thanks again for watching Aging Insight. I hope you learned a little something about some of these scams, and I hope you can look out for yourself, look out for others. And if you want additional information, you can just always keep watching Aging Insight in future episodes. So we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Aging Insight program with John Ross and Lisa Scholmeyer. This program is made possible by